Hi and welcome to another episode, and what we've got here is fixing this Sinclair ZX Spectrum Plus 2 episode 7, the one that I said I wasn't going to be making. Well, more than one person has asked me to actually show the installation of the GAL chip, which is the replacement of the HAL chip, the Unrainer. Um, yeah, well, here we are. Call it Pinocchio if you must, but here is episode 7. So, as I've done before, it's still not screwed together. Carefully trying to drag it all up without breaking everything. Obviously, I've already disconnected everything, so I'm not ripping things apart. Right, the HAL chip is that one there, and we need to replace it with another chip that looks like it but socketed. But it's a GAL chip, which improves things, as I say, with the Unrainer thing that happens in certain games. Robocop 3 is one that comes to mind from the information that I've read. So let's connect everything back up again, load up Robocop 3 using my trusty CD car cassette adapter, and we'll get that game loaded. And so I'll just show you what it looks like. So back in a moment when that game's loaded. Well, now it's loaded, let me change it across. And as you can see, the rain effect, and this is a problem with the HAL chip. Don't ask me to explain to you what's wrong. I don't understand the differences of why the programming is so bad. But obviously this game came out a fair bit after this. It came out after the Plus 2A and things, and that version has a better version of the HAL chip. But this is a GAL chip that we're going to be installing. So let's get on with taking the Spectrum to bits again and getting the motherboard out. But as you can see, this is something that desperately needs fixing. So let's go back to full size so we're ready for next time. But for those eagle-eyed ones among you, see anything different down here? Look at that, it looks basically brand new now. I do like that I've managed to get hold of some fresh keys from a different system, which I'm informed it was gutted. So basically there was case, keycaps and all that sort of stuff was being sold on, but I managed to get these. They're close enough to the strange grey, green grey that the case is turned to. So it is in fact still the same one of everything, just to prove that all the other keycaps that I had, which were very faint, which I joked about in one of the earlier episodes of, you can tell that whoever was playing around with this was eating their fish and chips while they were waiting for things to load. But anyway, as I say, I'm going to turn it off now, get inside, and just the motherboard so we can install the GAL chip. Okay, so as you can see, I've moved things around. It's this chip here we want to desolder. I've got my desoldering gun, so I'm just going to get on with doing that. Well, as what sometimes happens is actually you have to go back and add a little bit of solder because the old solder didn't want to go away. So just adding a bit of solder. There we go. I think a little bit on this one as well. And I'll try desoldering again. So let's try. Okay, as you can see, the chip fought back a bit. Not the cleanest. I've taken a chip out, but basically I think my desoldering station could do with a clean. But sadly, I've pulled up a via at the top left, which thankfully doesn't really matter on this board when it comes to this chip because there's nothing that leads to it. But be careful of it because, as I mentioned in a previous episode, I messed up on the memory chips and I had to do a patch wire. Now, speaking of patch wires, the GAL chip, not the HAL chip, but the GAL chip, this one here, also needs a patch Can we see? Yeah, it needs a patch wire done. But we've got the chip holder and we've got the chip, so obviously I need to solder that in there, make sure it's sat properly and everything first, of course, and then we'll put the chip in. So we'll leave that over there, and we'll leave this little bit of a patch wire over here as well. I'll tell you which pins and to where that need to be done when we get round to that. So let's solder this in first. Right, so that's all of them soldered. I'm not going to put the chip in just yet because obviously I've got to do the patch wire, and the patch wire actually goes to the Z80 chip, which is this one. So what we need to do is actually remove that, because what we don't want to do is put too much heat from putting a soldered point to a soldered point. I'm sure your fantastic experts out there can just go and job done, but I'm not that good, so at least not yet, if I ever will be. So I'm risking pulling the Z80 chip because I don't want to transfer heat to it. Straight up. Now obviously I'm going to put a link in the description to where I got my information from, but from what I'm reading right now on the website is that's the CPU bit is here, this little strip of pins down here, and of course this is where we've just put the socket in for the GAL chip. Now what we need to do, and I'll zoom in a bit so you can see it a bit better, super duper fast zoom. With there, yeah, that'll do. We need to go from pin 1 on our GAL chip all the way across to, where are we? Okay, so I've dropped the Z80 chip out of the way for now. Flip the board over and then I'll zoom in for you, because we need a little bit of a closer look and we need to know what we're doing, because even though I'm giving you a link, sadly they don't seem to be using a +2 grey when they say they're using a +2 grey, but there's something to our advantage as well. Now, I spoke to you about a wire getting ripped off, which was the top left one here. Well, that's actually pin 11, and pin 11 is the one that we need, and since it's not getting used by anything else on the board, this is why we have to use the patch one. So that's landed lucky. So we need to find where we need to go. So we've got the GAL chip, at least it will be the GAL chip, and we need pin 11. So with the edge connector up here, this is pin 11 here. So we need to make a wire from there to pin 28 on the Z80 chip. Now, as I said before, I don't understand what's what, but it explains that this is a refresh point on the GAL chip, and we need to connect it to a refresh point on the Z80. So I'm assuming either the Z80 is telling the GAL chip to refresh, or the gal chip's telling the Z80 to refresh. Not too sure, but for those out there that understand those sort of things, I'll put a link again that it explains it in far more hexadecimal details and things on why the gal chip's being done. Anyway, 11 to 28 on the Z80 chip. Now, it's not this area here, it's this area for all these pins here. That's where the Z80 sits, and we know, well, I explain, this is pin 1, and then we need to count upwards and across and back down again because we want pin 28. But we know that the Z80 chip is a 40 pin chip, so that's 20 all the way up there, so this must be 21. So 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. So it's this pin, which is sort of in line with this filled in solder via, so that one there. So let's create a patch wire from there to over there, and then as you see from the link that I've given, that they say they're using a +2 grey, but they're not. I believe they're still using the 128K toast rack type. So we need to cut off the end, measure out the length, and then cut off the end as well, tin it, and then solder it in place. Okay, I'm sure you've seen patch wires done plenty of times. Let's just test that it actually works before putting a bit, well, cleaning it up and putting a bit of Captain tape on. So flip it over. Now, if I've got my places correct, that is pin 11. So stick a probe in there, and then we know this is the Z80 chip. 1 is over here, so 20 all the way over there, so 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and the magic one being 28. So we have the join that we want. Patch wire is working, so we'll flip it back over again and clean it all off with some isopropyl. Where's all my fun stuff? Here we are. Isopropyl in the top of the Q-tip top, and then we can clean off where we've been soldering. Because you don't want to leave the flux all over the place, because sadly in the long run it does more harm to the PCB than you'd think. And just that bit there. That's fine now. And let's just flip it over, because I did actually put some around here as well for when I was desoldering the chip before, cheekily off screen. I had already cleaned it up before as well, but I'm just doubly making sure. So that's it. So we'll get all the isopropyl and Q-tips out of the way. Let's put the Z80 chip back in again. So I am earthed. I'm not really, but keep your fingers crossed. Put the chip back in again the right way around. Z81 at least. There we go. That one's in. Make sure it's all the way in. And then we get a gal chip, taking it away from this foam. Let's hope it's already been squished into the right size, but it hasn't, because chips never seem to be. Oh, it has. The notch is at the bottom. Just doubly making sure of that actually. Yep, notch is definitely at the bottom. I know it is on the motherboard, but I want to make sure I'm putting the chip the right way around. And again, just make sure you're putting it in without bending any legs. It's firmly all the way in, and that's us done. That's the gal being replaced or updated to a gal chip. From what I've read elsewhere on the internet, there is another version of this coming out, which will supposedly give even more support apart from some mole German game thing. I can't really remember what it was titled, but apart from that particular game. So if I do decide to upgrade to that, it'll be dead easy because all I have to do is pop that chip. Hopefully the patch wise is exactly the same. I can't see why it wouldn't be. But yeah, that's that one done. Let's flip it back over yet again and get some Captain tape on, which is this wonderful stuff, cheap enough on eBay. Let's flip it back again. Right, I'm going to let my soldering iron and my desoldering iron to cool down so I can put them back on the shelf, and then I'll get the Spectrum back up and running again. And let's have a look on if Robocop 3 works properly. So we'll jump straight back into Robocop 3 because you've seen me rebuild this plenty enough times. So it's all back together again. Is it worth it? We'll find out in a little bit, because one thing I want to mention is RetroTech Ralph recommended to me that I left a message for myself or someone later on that of what I've actually done inside here. So using some masking tape, I've put that in the area below the tape deck. I've put the month and year, and I've put that I changed out some RAM chips, that I changed the HAL chip for a GAL chip, and I've done the stereo mod. So either myself or someone in the long run can have a look inside and go, oh, that's what must have been going on, instead of trying to figure out what on earth is that funny wire thing going over there. I'm sure people will be clever enough to figure it out, but it instantly tells them, since you sort of have to take all that out and see underneath there anyway. And putting it on the inside on the masking tape, it's not going to get hot or anything like that. It's not going to get burnt. It's not going to get in the way of anything. And I think it's better doing it on the inside than it is on the outside, because bits of paper and stuff can get scratched off the bottom in the long run. So let's move across to see, did the GAL chip actually work? And the answer is yes. There's no funny glitching rain effect. So I'll put the rainy effect on the left hand side of the screen, the fixed version on the right hand side with the GAL chip. So yes, with the +2 grey and the toast rack, I would recommend that you get yourself the GAL chip, and so you've got more games to play with the particular Spectrum that you have. Let's go back to full screen again. Right, I know I said last time that's the end of the Spectrum stuff series, fixing it series. Well, I kind of lied, didn't I? But it turns out that this one is going to be the last one. Fingers crossed, I'm sure. But yes, now the +2 is a decent machine. It means I can play around with the expansion port stuff that I've got. So I will be bringing them in a while. Not next week. We'll have a break from the Spectrum. That is a promise. That next week we'll have a break from the Spectrum. But until next time, I do hope you have a look at maybe becoming a patron, that you click the like and the subscribe and the notification bell and all that fun stuff, so you get to know that when I put out something next. And $1 here, $1 there definitely comes in handy for buying gadgets and bits and pieces and stuff. And as always, happy gaming.